What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. It's KP, and today we are going to be discussing Bastion Host on AWS. Let's jump right in. Alright, before we can dive into what a Bastion Host is, we must first understand what a VPC is. A VPC is a virtual private network dedicated to a single AWS account that provides complete control over network configurations, including the IP address ranges, subnets, and route tables. The VPC is logically isolated from other virtual networks in the AWS Cloud and from the internet. However, to connect to resources inside the VPC from the internet, we need to use a Bastion host. A Bastion host is an EC2 instance that can act as a secure gateway to access private instances within an AWS VPC. It is a dedicated server that provides secure access to resources in the private network from outside the VPC. The Bastion host is often referred to as a jump host or jump server because it is used to jump from the internet into the private network, which is your VPC. How does a Bastion host work in AWS? When we deploy a Bastion host in the public subnet of a VPC, it is assigned a public IP address, which means it is accessible from the internet. To use the Bastion host, authorized users connect to it via SSH or RDP using their own authentication credentials. Once the user is authenticated, they can then use the Bastion host to access resources inside the VPC. To do this, the Bastion host must be configured with the appropriate network settings, including security group, route table, and elastic IP address. The security group must allow inbound traffic from authorized IP addresses and restrict all other traffic. The route table must be configured to allow traffic to flow from the internet to the public subnet where the Bastion host resides. And here is just a oversimplified diagram of what a Bastion host looks like. So here we have users depicted. So this could be someone that's possibly on your development team or your engineering team, and they want to connect into one of your private instances here. So what happens is they use their own credentials here to SSH or RDP, and this outer green line is your VPC. So this is your isolation from within AWS. Each VPC is logically isolated, and then within the VPC, you'll see two distinguishing subnets. The top subnet is what we defined as a public subnet, and anything in this public subnet will have access to the internet, and that's all allowed through the security groups. Anything here in this lower blue box is going to be in our private subnet, which means that it's going to have a private IP address assigned to it, and it does not have a route out to the internet. So I guess the takeaway from here is anything that's in the public subnet has been assigned a public IP address and is internet facing. Anything here in our private subnet is going to have a private IP address assigned to it, and it's not going to be accessible to the internet. Usage. So to use a Bastion host in an AWS VPC, you need to deploy the Bastion host within the VPC. Once the Bastion host is deployed, you can configure it to allow secure access to the private instances within the VPC. The Bastion host typically has two network interfaces, one for the internet facing side and one for the VPC facing side, or the private network. A couple benefits of using a Bastion host on AWS. You get security, scalability, it's cost effective, access. You have login and auditing kind of built in out of the gate, performance gains, and management. So we're going to touch on each one of these. So the first thing here, security. This provides an additional layer of security for your VPC. In addition, it acts as a buffer between the internet and your EC2 instances. So basically, with the use of a Bastion host, you won't be able to directly connect to your EC2 instances. You will have to connect from the internet to the Bastion host, and then from the Bastion host to the EC2 instances in the private network. And then additionally, it provides control over access via a single point of entry. So that way, if we thought we may have been exposed or breached, we can just go to the single point of entry and just cut it off. So we could either change the security group to not allow the Bastion host to continue to access the private subnet, or we could just kill the Bastion host completely, and then if no other credentials or anything have been compromised, there's no entryway in at that point. Using this example at least. Going on to scalability, the Bastion host is highly scalable and it can accommodate multiple SSH or RDP connections. Cost effective. So this eliminates the need for a public facing EC2 instance. Basically, we just use this Bastion host and keep everything else locked down inside our private network. And if we do need to access something within our private network, obviously we use the Bastion host. Additionally, the cost of the Bastion host is, and I'm going to do air quotes, relatively inexpensive compared to other solutions, which could be a direct connect or a VPN client. Logging and auditing are kind of built in, or you kind of get that for free by using the Bastion host. So this is going to provide centralized logging and auditing of all user activities, and it also can be used to help monitor and detect potential security threats. So as anything else with AWS, every action that a user takes in the system gets logged through CloudTrail. So basically, we can see every user that's logging in, what actions they've performed on that EC2 instance, and we have all of that login and auditing in one centralized place. That way, we could easily detect if we see some bad actors or some nefarious activities going on our VPC. This is one way we could easily target that and hopefully remediate it relatively quickly. And finally, performance gains. The load on private EC2 instances can be reduced by using the Bastion host. Also, a Bastion host can be optimized for performance and security inside the network. And finally, as far as management, a Bastion host can be managed several different ways. A couple we have outlined here via the CLI, via the AWS console, or it could be as part of a cloud formation template. and it can be configured to automatically scale based on demand. So if we know the holidays are coming up, if we have a Black Friday sale that's we know it's going to be going on, we may need to scale up our EC2 instances within the private network. But in addition to that, we may want to automatically scale up our Bastion hosts so they align with the scale that we provided for our EC2 instances on our private network. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.